The Mist #1, Between Two Cities, part of the beta storyline. The night rolled in quietly over the coastline, a thin layer of fog drifting across the border between Coastal City and Jackson City, two places separated by distance, but close enough that crime never stayed contained for long. And neither did he. A faint swirl of vapor moved through an alley in Coastal City, unseen, unheard, watching. Adrian Vale, the Mist, hovered just above the pavement in his intangible form, observing a group of thugs gathered behind a closed-down warehouse. Crates were stacked near a truck, weapons being passed around casually. Illegal, organized, careless. Shipments heading to Jackson by morning, one of them said. Boss wants everything moved before sunrise. Adrian's Mist shifted slightly. Jackson City. That meant this wasn't just local crime. It was spreading. He didn't hesitate. The fog thickened. One thug blinked. You see that? Too late. The mist moved. In an instant, he flowed between them, through them, disorienting, blinding, suffocating their awareness. One man swung wildly, hitting nothing but air. Another dropped his weapon as a cold sensation wrapped around his arm. Adrian solidified just long enough. A precise strike. Then gone again. One by one, the thugs fell, not from brute force, but confusion, fear, and controlled takedowns. Weapons clattered to the ground as the fog consumed the alley. Within moments, silence. The Mist reformed fully, standing among unconscious criminals. He looked at the truck, Jackson City. This doesn't stop here, he said quietly. Hours later, Jackson City. The same fog rolled through darker streets now, slipping between buildings like a ghost that belonged there. The truck had arrived, and so had he. Inside an abandoned dockyard, more thugs unloaded crates. The same operation, just bigger. More men, more weapons. One of them laughed. Coastal job went smooth, no interruptions. A pause, then a voice behind them. Not quite. They turned, but there was no one there, only mist. Panic started to set in. Where is he? You see him? The mist moved faster this time, more confident, more precise. He split his form, appearing from multiple angles, wrapping around weapons, blinding vision, isolating targets. A man fired into the fog, useless. Another tried to run, only to be tripped by something that wasn't fully there. Adrian reformed briefly in front of the last standing thug. You picked the wrong cities, he said calmly. One clean motion, the thug dropped. Minutes later, police sirens echoed through the docks. Crates seized, thugs arrested, another operation shut down before it could spread further. High above, the mist drifted along the rooftops. Adrian watched quietly as order was restored. 2 cities, 1 night, same result. He didn't need recognition, didn't need credit, just results. As the fog slowly faded into the night air, his voice lingered softly in the wind. I'll be wherever I'm needed. And just like that, the mist was gone. Waterman #1, Tides of Justice, part of the beta storyline. The waves crashed hard against the docks of Coastal City, louder than usual, as if the ocean itself was warning the city that something wasn't right. Under the glow of flickering dock lights, a group of armed thugs moved quickly, unloading crates from a small cargo ship. Their movements were rushed, nervous. Make it fast, one of them muttered. We don't want any heroes showing up. Another laughed. Relax, this city's too quiet for that. The water beside the dock rippled, unnaturally. A figure rose slowly from the ocean, not climbing, not swimming, rising. Water flowed upward, forming around him like armor as Daniel Rivers, waterman, stepped onto the dock, droplets falling from his form as if the sea itself obeyed him. It's not as quiet as you think, he said calmly. The thugs froze. What the? Open fire! Bullets flew. Water answered. A wall of ocean surged up from the harbor, forming a solid barrier in front of watermen. The bullets stopped instantly, dropping harmlessly into the tide below. With a single motion of his hand, the water surged forward. A controlled wave slammed into the group, not enough to seriously harm them, but enough to knock them off their feet and scatter their weapons across the dock. One thug tried to run. Water wrapped around his legs, pulling him down. Another reached for a gun. A tendril of water snapped it out of his hand and crushed it against the ground. Waterman walked forward slowly, completely in control. You're bringing weapons into this city, he said. That ends now. One of the last thugs lunged at him in desperation. The ocean responded instantly. A surge lifted the man into the air and dropped him harmlessly onto the dock, out cold. Within moments, it was over. The dock was silent again, aside from the natural rhythm of the waves. The thugs lay defeated, soaked, and unconscious. The crates sat unopened, and the ocean calmed. Police sirens echoed in the distance as watermen stood at the edge of the dock, looking out over the water. Another crisis stopped before it could grow. Another night where the sea protected its city. He stepped forward, and the water welcomed him back. His form dissolved into liquid, sinking beneath the surface as if he had never been there at all. Only the waves remained. Steady, watchful, endless. Because as long as Coastal City stood, watermen would be there to protect it. Waterman number 2, Cinder Rain, part of the beta storyline. The night sky above Coastal City burned, not from the sunset, from fire. Flames roared across the upper levels of an industrial refinery near the waterfront, casting an orange glow over the ocean. Smoke curled into the air like a warning signal, and below it all stood the cause, a woman wreathed in living fire. Her body flickered like a storm of embers, her eyes glowing.
Just Henry, clean it up then, okay? And now put that in the dirty clothes.
I will put it in you.
Find a different video.
I want to watch Minecraft. Minecraft is more better than any video. Minecraft.
No. You don't need this. You wanna watch? You're watching cartoons. You're gonna be on TV over here now. Oh damn. Now stop it, Henry. Just stop it, okay? You have all these things on your phone you don't want to use. Here. Fucking good. Why do you even have the TV on if you're gonna watch YouTube, huh? I didn't say power it off.
I like Scooby-Doo anyway.
Well, I'm gonna power it back on. You don't need power it off. Come on, power on. There we go. You don't want to power it off, Henry. Just leave it on. Okay? You can watch YouTube later, okay? I promise, Henry, I promise. Henry.
Waterman number 2, Cinder Rain, part of the beta storyline. The night sky above Coastal City burned, not from the sunset, from fire. Flames roared across the upper levels of an industrial refinery near the waterfront, casting an orange glow over the ocean. Smoke curled into the air like a warning signal, and below it all stood the cause, a woman wreathed in living fire. Her body flickered like a storm of embers, her eyes glowing. Waterman number 2, Cinder Rain, part of the beta storyline. The night sky above Coastal City burned, not from the sunset, from fire. Flames roared across the upper levels of an industrial refinery near the waterfront, casting an orange glow over the ocean. Smoke curled into the air like a warning signal, and below it all stood the cause, a woman wreathed in living fire. Her body flickered like a storm of embers, her eyes glowing with heat and fury. Seraphine Voss, now known as Cinder Rain. "Let it burn," she whispered, her voice echoing through the crackling flames. "Let them feel what I felt." Workers fled the area as fire spread unnaturally fast, twisting around metal structures without consuming them fully, as if it was being controlled. Because it was. The ocean responded. Waves surged violently toward the dockside facility, rising higher than normal, drawn not by wind, but by will. A column of water shot upward and formed into a human shape as Daniel Rivers, waterman, stepped onto the scene. His eyes scanned the destruction, then locked onto her. "You're going to bring this entire place down," he said calmly. Cinder Rain turned slowly, flames intensifying around her form. "They built this place on lies," she said. "On experiments, on people like me." Her fire flared higher. "I'm just returning the favor." The flames surged toward him. Water answered instantly. A massive wave rose between them, colliding with the fire in a violent explosion of steam that filled the entire area in seconds. But the fire didn't go out. It pushed through, alive, angry. Waterman narrowed his eyes. "This isn't normal fire," he said. Cinder Rain smiled faintly. "It's not." She launched forward, a blazing arc of heat trailing behind her as she struck the ground, sending fire racing across the metal structures toward him. Waterman reacted instantly, raising both arms. The ocean surged. Multiple streams of water shot forward, wrapping around the flames, containing them, redirecting them away from fuel lines and civilians. But every time he suppressed the fire, it came back stronger. She's feeding it, he realized. This wasn't just destruction. It was control, emotion, power. Waterman changed tactics. Instead of attacking the flames, he targeted the source. He moved quickly, closing the distance as waves circled around him like a shield. Cinder Rain hurled a blast of fire. Waterman split the incoming attack with a rotating barrier of water, steam exploding outward as he pushed through. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I already did," she snapped. The ground beneath them cracked as heat met pressure. Waterman raised his hand, and the ocean answered with precision. A focused stream, not a wave, shot forward and wrapped around her arms, then her legs, restricting her movement without extinguishing her entirely. Steam erupted around her as she struggled. "You think you can contain me?" she shouted. "No," Waterman said calmly, "but I can stop you." He tightened the water construct, cooling, stabilizing, controlling the heat output instead of fighting it directly. Her flames flickered, weakened, not gone, but contained. For the first time, she hesitated. Fire slowly dimmed around her form, shrinking from a raging inferno to controlled embers. The refinery stopped burning. The ocean calmed. Sirens echoed in the distance. Waterman held the containment steady as authorities arrived to secure the area. Cinder Rain looked at him through fading flames. "This isn't over," she said quietly. Waterman met her gaze. "I know," he replied. As she was taken into custody, her powers restrained but not gone, Waterman turned back toward the ocean. The fire was out. The city was safe. For now, he stepped forward and dissolved back into the sea. Far beneath the surface, currents shifted because something new had just risen in Coastal City. Not just another criminal, not just another accident, but something powerful, something unstable, something that would return. And when it did, the tide would be waiting to rise again. Changeling number 1, Shadows That Watch, part of the beta storyline. The city didn't have a name people spoke about often. It was one of those places, forgotten, quiet, buried under layers of history and secrets no one wanted uncovered. Perfect for something to hide, perfect for something to grow. Nathan Nolan stood across the street from an abandoned church, its windows shattered, its doors barely hanging onto rusted hinges. But it wasn't abandoned. Not really. He could hear them, chanting, low, rhythmic, wrong. Nathan adjusted his hood, his expression unreadable. This wasn't his first time tracking something like this, but it felt different. Heavy, he muttered to himself. Inside the church, candles lined the walls in strange patterns, their flames flickering unnaturally despite the lack of wind. Figures in dark robes knelt in a circle, whispering in unison. At the center, a symbol, carved deep into the floor, something ancient, something not meant to be understood. Nathan didn't walk in. He changed. His body shifted, bones adjusting, skin altering, his entire form reshaping into someone else. A different face, a different build, one of them, one of the cultists. He stepped inside without a sound. No one questioned him. "Tonight, we are closer," one of the leaders said, standing before the symbol. "The veil weakens." Nathan's eyes scanned the room, weapons, artifacts, old books, and something else. Fear. Even they didn't fully understand what they were dealing with. He moved slowly through the crowd, listening, learning, adapting. Soon, the form will be complete, another voice whispered. The vessel must be prepared. Nathan's expression tightened. Vessel, that meant someone, or something. A scream echoed from the back of the church. Nathan turned. A man was being dragged forward, struggling, terrified. Please, I didn't do anything. The cult leader raised a hand. You were chosen. Nathan didn't hesitate. His body shifted again, this time faster, stronger. Not a disguise, a weapon. He moved. In an instant, he crossed the room, striking the nearest cultist before they could react. The man dropped instantly. Chaos erupted. Intruder! Nathan's arm reshaped, muscles tightening as he deflected a blade aimed at him. He grabbed the attacker and threw him across the room. Precise, controlled, efficient. The cult leader stepped forward, unfazed. You shouldn't be here, he said calmly. Nathan's eyes locked onto him. Neither should you. The leader smiled. You don't understand what we're building. Nathan tilted his head slightly. No, he said. I understand exactly what you're trying to do. The symbol on the ground began to glow faintly. Nathan noticed. That wasn't ritual theatrics. That was real. Stop the ritual, he said, voice low. The leader didn't move. You're too late. Nathan changed again. His body hardened, adapting to the rising energy in the room. His senses sharpened, reacting to something unnatural forming at the center of the circle. He lunged forward, grabbing the leader before he could finish whatever he was doing and slamming him into the ground, breaking the ritual's focus. The glow flickered, then stopped. Silence. The remaining cultists ran, not fighting, fleeing, like they knew something worse was coming. Nathan released the leader, who was now unconscious. The kidnapped man stumbled back, shaking. Thank you. Nathan didn't respond. He was looking at the symbol. It was still there, still carved, still waiting. This wasn't the end, Nathan said quietly. They were preparing something. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Nathan stepped back into the shadows. His body shifted again, returning to his original form. For now. Before disappearing, he looked back one last time, at the symbol, at the place, at the feeling that something bigger was moving behind all of this. They weren't just a cult, he said under his breath. They were a warning. And then he was gone. No trace, no identity, no proof he was ever there. Only the knowledge that something in the shadows had been stopped. For now, but not finished, not even close. Beta Project Skyforge #1, Man of the Sky, part of the beta storyline. The streets of West Haven were alive with noise, sirens, shouting, and panic. Outside the West Haven National Bank, masked robbers rushed out carrying bags of cash, weapons raised as civilians scattered in fear. Move, move, one of them yelled. Cars are around the corner. A gunshot rang into the air. Chaos. High above, a streak of gold cut through the sky. In an instant, he was there. Skyforge. He landed between the robbers and the civilians with a shockwave that cracked the pavement beneath his boots. The robbers froze. You've got to be kidding me, one muttered. Skyforge stood tall, calm, unshaken. It's over, he said. One robber fired. The bullet hit his chest and dropped harmlessly to the ground. Skyforge didn't even flinch. Another rushed him. He moved faster than they could react, disarming him instantly and sending him sliding across the pavement. A third tried to run. Skyforge shot upward, then came down in front of him in a flight, blocking his escape. Within seconds, all of them were down. No excessive force, no damage to civilians, just precision. Police sirens pulled up moments later, officers rushing in to secure the scene. Skyforge stepped back, watching quietly as the robbers were taken into custody. Then, he lifted off the ground. From across the street, cameras were already rolling. Victoria Hale stood in front of the scene, microphone in hand. This is Victoria Hale reporting live from West Haven, where a group of armed bank robbers were stopped in seconds by the city's newest hero, Skyforge. Behind her, Caleb Mercer adjusted the camera, zooming in on the sky. Beta Project Skyforge #1, a light above West Haven, part of the beta storyline. The streets of West Haven were alive with noise, cars moving, people talking, the usual rhythm of a busy city. Until it broke. Gunshots echoed from inside the West Haven Central Bank. Panic followed instantly. Civilians rushed out of the building as masked robbers stormed the front entrance, weapons raised, shouting orders. "Everyone stay down," one of them yelled. "This will be quick if you cooperate." Inside, chaos. Outside, fear. And above it all, a streak of gold cut through the sky. A shockwave of wind hit the street as Skyforge landed in front of the bank, his cape flowing behind him, eyes locked on the threat. "Not today," he said calmly. The robbers turned. Who? They didn't finish. Skyforge moved faster than they could react. One blur, he disarmed the first gunman. Another motion, he lifted a second robber off the ground and set him aside like he weighed nothing. A third tried to fire. A flash of golden energy knocked the weapon clean out of his hands. Within seconds, it was over. The robbers were down. No injuries, no destruction, just precision. Police sirens approached as Skyforge stepped back, scanning the area to make sure everyone was safe. A child nearby stared up at him in awe. "Are you gonna leave already?" the kid asked. Skyforge smiled slightly. "Someone's always watching," he said. Then he launched into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Later that evening, cameras rolled outside the bank. Victoria Hale stood in front of the scene, microphone in hand. This is Victoria Hale reporting live from West Haven Central Bank, where earlier today a robbery was stopped in a matter of seconds by the city's rising hero, Skyforge. Behind the camera, Caleb Mercer adjusted the focus, a small smile on his face. "Witnesses say the suspect didn't stand a chance," Victoria continued. The response was fast, controlled, and, according to many, hopeful. She paused slightly, a reminder that even in moments of fear, someone is looking out for this city. Off to the side, Caleb glanced down at his wrist, the Skyforge signal watch. He tapped it lightly, knowing it wasn't needed this time. "Show off," he muttered under his breath with a grin. High above West Haven, hidden among the clouds, Skyforge hovered silently, watching, listening, ready. Because as long as the city needed him, he would answer, like a light in the sky. Beta Project Skyforge number 1.5, Ink and Truth, part of the beta storyline. Morning light poured through the windows of the Beacon Times newsroom in West Haven, illuminating rows of desks, ringing phones, and the constant hum of reporters chasing the next story. At one desk sat Ethan Calloway. No cape, no glowing energy, just a keyboard, a screen, and a half-finished article. He typed steadily, focused. "Local hero stops bank robbery without injuries." He paused, backspaced, then rewrote it. "Skyforge prevents bank robbery, ensures civilian safety." "Better," he muttered. Across the room, voices overlap. "Get me confirmation on that witness. Where are the photos from the scene? Deadlines in 20 minutes." The chaos of journalism, the kind Ethan understood just as well as saving people. "Hey, Calloway." Ethan looked up. Victoria Hale stood nearby, holding a notepad. "You're covering the bank story too?" she asked. "Yeah," Ethan replied casually. "Figured I'd get a different angle." Victoria smirked. "Try not to make him sound too perfect." Ethan smiled slightly. "No promises." From behind a camera setup, Caleb Mercer gave Ethan a quick glance, just enough to say "I know" without saying anything at all. Ethan returned a subtle nod. Unspoken, understood. Ethan looked back at his screen, at the words, at the story, at the truth he couldn't fully write, not yet. He leaned back slightly, exhaling. 2 lives, one in the sky, one on the page, both mattered. As the newsroom buzzed around him, Ethan returned to typing, telling the story the world could see, while keeping the one it couldn't hidden. For now. Beta Project Skyforge number 2, Punchline in the Dark, part of the beta storyline. The news broke early in West Haven. A rising billionaire, Victor Blackwood, had stepped into the political spotlight. Cameras flashed as he spoke on stage, confident and sharp. "Metahumans are uncontrolled," Blackwood declared. "They operate without oversight, without limits. If I am elected, I will ensure they are regulated or removed entirely." The crowd reacted in mixed noise, applause, concern, silence. In a nearby newsroom, Ethan Calloway watched the broadcast from his desk at the Beacon Times. He didn't say anything. He just kept listening. That same night, West Haven's downtown district turned chaotic. Bright lights flickered across a theater marquee. A message had been spray-painted across the entrance. "Let's laugh at order." Inside, security guards were unconscious, smiling faintly, as if they'd been told the funniest joke in the world. Skyforge arrived moments later, landing silently on the theater roof. "Another performance," he muttered. Inside, chaos unfolded. A man in a brightly colored suit, painted smile, and theatrical mask stood on stage, bowing dramatically. Milo quipped, "Punchline." "Ladies and gentlemen," Milo shouted. "Why so serious? I've rewritten tonight's script." He snapped his fingers. Explosive devices shaped like laughing theater masks dropped from the ceiling, bursting into harmless but disorienting flash bursts of sound and light, sending crowds into panic. Skyforge moved. A golden blur cut through the chaos. One by one, the devices were disarmed midair. Skyforge landed on stage directly in front of Milo Quip. "You're done," Skyforge said. Milo tilted his head. "Done? Oh no, I'm just getting to the punchline." He lunged. Fast. Unpredictable. But not fast enough. Skyforge caught him mid-strike, disarmed him, and gently pinned him to the stage floor without force. "No encore," Skyforge said. Minutes later, police sirens filled the area. Milo Quip was taken into custody, still laughing as he was dragged away. Later that night, at the Beacon Times, Victoria Hale and Caleb Mercer stood outside the theater, reporting the aftermath. "It appears Skyforge once again stopped a potentially dangerous public incident," Victoria said into the camera. "Authorities confirmed no civilian casualties." Caleb adjusted the camera slightly, watching the broken stage lights. "Whoever he is," Victoria added, "he's becoming a constant presence in West Haven's fight for safety." Elsewhere, Beta Project Skyforge number 2, Skyforge said. Minutes later, police sirens filled the area. Milo Quip was taken into custody, still laughing as he was dragged away. Later that night, at the Beacon Times, Victoria Hale and Caleb Mercer stood outside the theater, reporting the aftermath. "It appears Skyforge once again stopped a potentially dangerous public incident," Victoria said into the camera. "Authorities confirmed no civilian casualties." Caleb adjusted the camera slightly, watching the broken stage lights. "Whoever he is," Victoria added, "he's becoming a constant presence in West Haven's fight for safety." Elsewhere, Ethan Calloway stood at his apartment window, city lights reflecting in his eyes. Victor Blackwood's speech replayed on his phone. Then the night's chaos. Then silence. 2 threats forming in the same world. One in the streets, one in the system. Ethan closed the phone. "Looks like things are getting complicated," he said quietly. And somewhere above West Haven, Skyforge watched the city continue to breathe.
Hang on a minute. Okay. I know I wrote this story, but I didn't fully do the part about him closing the phone. That was ChatGPT. So does that mean even though in Jackson City and all these other places they have advanced technology, but they're still using a type of flip phone? Is this like the modern flip phones that they made that look like normal phones, but you can flip them or something? That actually gives me an idea to do a story about about my universe's technology. Okay, bye for now.